Alyssa Thomas is one of the all-time great women's basketball players in general, also one of the best passers of the basketball that the game has ever seen. And we are here to dive into the details of her historic performance against the Chicago Sky. So let's get to it. To kind of highlight some of the ways in which she it kind of just shows her greatness, quite honestly, over the course of games. I think one of the best ways to kind of gather that information past just me talking about it is to hear our new head coach, Nate Tibbetts, speak to it. So here's Coach Nate Tibbetts after her historic performance against the Chicago Sky.
You probably see me jumping around over there to slow it down to get to AT because I feel like when she has it, we're going to get a good shot. The turnovers have been an issue this year. I think the last 2 out of 3 games we've done a better job of taking care of it. For her to have it as much as she did and have 1 turnover tells you a little bit about the pride that she takes. And I've said it, like she's gonna do whatever it takes to win. And yeah, the fun part for me and our staff is like, I don't think we're kind of done figuring out ways to put her in positions to be successful. Obviously, we're putting her in the middle of the floor and setting some ball screens with our guards, but I think the elbow is an opportunity for us to find more of those. And then also off the block, right? And we haven't gotten there yet. Our actions out of the post haven't been as good, but there's so many things that she can do as a playmaker. It's pretty special.
15 assists for Alyssa Thomas, second most in her career in a game. 41 assist points created, by far the most assist points that she's created in a singular game in her entire career. And also 11 assists for 3-pointers. So 11 assists, 11 of her passes resulted in 3-pointers made for the Mercury in their win over the Chicago Sky. Just, again, all-time great elite level playmaking, and it's the multiple contexts in which she does so to kind of ease the burden of everyone else, kind of put them in positions, and kind of honestly create her own version of organized chaos just off of simple touches, but also dynamic touches and transition. So let's go ahead and dive into the film and just kind of detail some of the greatness of Alyssa Thomas and why she is the all-time great that she is. So first play, like we kind of talked about, a dynamic touch for her. She's one of the best transition players that the game has ever seen on either side of basketball. And we're going to see the gravity and the responsibility and accountability that comes with that from a defense here. So she's crossing the free throw line after grabbing the rebound, and there's 3 Sky players ahead of her. There's one that's even with her and Camila Cardoso on the ball. So as you see her transitioning into the offensive side of the court, you see where these Chicago Sky players are located on the floor. And look at how close in proximity and the kind of gravity, the vacuum that she is with the live dribble. Everybody understands in the game plan that they have to get back with urgency to take away the rim from her first. You even see Ariel Atkins, who has an all-time great shooter, for my money, the second best shooter of all time, and Sammy Wickham, that's sprinting across that left lane is going to fill that corner over there. She's even kind of pinched in to make sure that she's showing bodies and being a presence early on as Alyssa Thomas crosses the half-court line. Now, watch the gravity kind of play even more as the dust kind of settles on them getting back before Alyssa Thomas does in transition. And watch how everybody kind of just continues to flow downward towards the paint and how that's ultimately going to open up offense for the Sky, or for the Mercury rather, against this Sky defense as they load up to try to take away the rim and the paint from Alyssa. That's going to leave Satou Sabally wide open as she kind of in cruise control, trails in and allows for Alyssa Thomas to be that advantage that she is in transition. Wide open catch and shoot 3-point opportunity super early in the shot clock. For Satou, it's in rhythm. She's able to lace it up, knocks that down. And that's all, again, off of the gravity that Alyssa Thomas has in transition in particular. All right, next we're looking at them in the half court. So we see them initially trying to get into the wide action that turns into stack pick and roll. And we're going to watch how everything kind of unfolds here. So initially, you see right here, this is the wide screen being set for Satou Sabally. She's going to reject that, and she's going to flow to this space on the court right here. And then they're going to get into stack pick and roll, which is 3 players lined up vertically in between the elbows of the paint. And they're going to kind of get into a little pick and roll action and watch what kind of unfolds from there as that happens. All right, so you see the screen gets rejected from Satou like we talked about. And now you see the stack pick and roll unfolding. Nothing's going to come of this secondary action as they kind of flow into a pressure counter. ends up getting over to Satu Sabali in the middle, and now they're going to kind of reset. And this is where the beauty of having Alyssa Thomas in your offense takes on a different context of dominance. So here's Alyssa Thomas here, obviously. Nothing's happened in the wide action that they went to initially. They flowed into a stack pick and roll. Didn't get anything out of that in particular either. And this is where, like I said, her beauty kind of comes into play, as you see nothing's come of that. They've created no advantage. But what is the trigger for something new for them? And this is a new context for the Mercury that they've been leaning more into the last handful of games that Nate Tibbetts kind of spoke to with us prior to the film session starting. And that's these elbow touches that I asked them about. So they get to initial action, nothing comes of those things, and now they're trying to find something new with 11 seconds on the clock. Pitch it to Alyssa Thomas, and now her touch is the trigger for offense in and of itself. It literally becomes an offense in and of itself. You get an initial cut from Satu Sabali that clears the help that's closest to Alyssa Thomas from the top side. That's also because of who it is that's cutting, gonna come with some gravity, and it's gonna pinch in that person that is next to Satu Sabali that's guarding Lexi Hill, which is Courtney Vandersloot. Courtney Vandersloot has 2 feet in the paint as Satu Sabali dive cuts right down the middle. And watch the reaction that creates in terms of advantage for the Sky, or excuse me, for the Mercury. And that's going to put this guy behind in terms of their rotations defensively, leaves Lexi Hill wide open for a catch and shoot 3-point opportunity. And she does what she does as one of the best shooters on this Mercury team. For every reaction that the defense has, they have an equal and honestly sometimes even more dominant reaction for the player that is kind of being helped off of in these scenarios. Another context to play where Alyssa Thomas is all-time great and elite, and that's as a pick-and-roll ball handler, and doing so even more so in an evolved manner. So you see the early offense kind of step-up screen here taking place out of the corner for Alyssa Thomas, inverted pick-and-roll, but notice the location of it. So on the outer third, it's in the emptied side of the court, not even just the empty corner. That complete side of the court is emptied, and because of the angle of the screen being set, but also the kind of last-second nature of a step-up screen, communication isn't able to take place preemptively from the defense. And because of that, she's able to gain immediate access downhill. And now we want to pay attention to what makes her such a great playmaker in this context as well. As we bring the cursor in so you can see what I'm looking at specifically. So first of all, you see Alyssa Thomas turning the corner, and that's a great step-up screen here from Sevgi Uzun. Great job with the angle. Great job just prying her open. She gets downhill going full speed. They have trips right spacing. So you got Satu here up top, Kalani Brown in the middle, and then they have another shooter over here in the corner that's not necessarily in the display right now. But we're going to be paying attention to here. Kalani Brown, the middle defender here, and Camila Cardoso. Because of Alyssa Thomas being able to turn the corner and get downhill like this, mind you, with 20 seconds on the shot clock, that's going to put just a ridiculous level of pressure on the rim. It's going to put Camila Cardoso immediately in compromise because she has to put the fire out at the rim. That is Alyssa Thomas. And that's where you want to bring your attention back here to Kalani Brown, because like I talked about a couple of plays ago, for every action or reaction that a defense has to take, the way that the Mercury are set up, they have an equal counterpunch to it. And that's just a kind of cruise control cut to follow the person that's leaving her, and Kalani Brown walks into an easy 2, all off of the pressure and the gravity that Alyssa Thomas has. So now we're going to be looking here on this one. They're going to be getting into some of their off-ball movement and see them getting into twirl action. So you see the stagger screens initially being set. You got Kit Loxa curling that first screen, and then it's going to turn into a pin for the next player. And then just watch how things kind of develop after that. Good defense from the Sky. They don't really get much out of that. That stagger screen that turned into a twirl, that turned into a pin for Sammy Wickham, then turned into another pin for Kit Loxa. Again, nothing comes of this initial action. So again, when the dust settles, the defense is able to defend well. What do you do to get another touch? Find a way to get the ball to Alyssa Thomas, and now her touch becomes an offense in and of itself. They get the touch, and now watch what's happening and watch what she's reading as she gets this touch at the elbow. And you see the Sky are in a little bit of zone here. It's a 2-3. She essentially is getting double teamed right here. So that's created a 2 versus 3 on the backside. You got Ariel Atkins right here. You got Kia Nurse right here. And now this is essentially like man-to-man type of principles in terms of reads for the defense, but also reads for Alyssa Thomas. You got Kit Loxa right here in the middle. You got Sammy Wickham top side. And then here you have Monica Kuamakani. in their trips right spacing right now. So you see the kind of 3 versus 2 advantage that's been created. And because of this cut here that takes place from Monica Koamakani, that's going to pull in Kia Nurse, and the timing of it in particular is what's going to create the advantage that ultimately comes, which is going to be Kit Loxa. After we see Akoa Makani cut, she's going to simply just sink to this corner and replace her. And because of the cadence at which these things are happening, all within this 3 versus 2 advantage that the Mercury have to the backside of the Alyssa Thomas touch, which is the trigger for the advantage to come, you're going to see a wide open catch and shoot 3-point opportunity generated from a great pass on time on target from Alyssa Thomas to Kit Loxa. And she's got a lightning quick release, able to beat the rotation. Mercury get yet another 3-pointer. And again, in transition, this time she's not grabbing the rebound, but they're finding her and then they're going. And watch again the gravity that's going to take place as Alyssa Thomas crosses the half-court line. So you bring the cursor back in, and you watch Alyssa, and then also watch the way that the defense is reacting to her as she crosses the half-court line here. 1, 2, and ultimately what's going to be 3 defenders from the Chicago Sky, all kind of shading towards the ball here in the middle third because of who has it and just the pressure that she puts on the defense. Watch the reaction is going to come out of that. And not dissimilar to the 3-point opportunity that we saw from Satu Sabli to start this film session, we're going to see a similar one created for Catherine Westbeld. And she's going to be just trailing in again, just casually understanding that rim running and trying to get an advantage in transition isn't always about running fast, but timing up based off of the advantage that you know that Alyssa Thomas is going to create for you in transition. Putting some of the most pressure on the rim in transition of any player in the league. She's able to kind of just cruise control and kind of flow into a 3-point opportunity topside. And that's as easy a shot as you can get. Also one of the most efficient and most effective shots that you can get early in the shot clock. And again, in transition, this time her grabbing a rebound herself, we're going to see another advantage created from Alyssa Thomas. You kind of start to see the theme that's being picked up on here. And it's our ability to understand the responsibility of when you have these skill sets and you have the attention of the defense, there comes great responsibility with the decisions made. When to call your own number versus when to find your teammates. And because of the ways that the Sky were loading up to take away her looks, she was obviously more than comfortable, as we talked about, with her second high career in terms of assists, with 15 in this one and 41 assist points created, that actually being a career high. She was more than okay getting off it when the time presented itself. Does that with Satu Sabli here, and you see the next advantage that's created based off of the attention that Alyssa Thomas gets. So now we get into this next rep and just kind of watch things develop, and then you'll see kind of the trend continuing to pick up again. So they try to get in the pick and roll. The Sky are going under the screens on Sevgi Uzun, so they're not able to create any advantage. So what is the kind of next trigger that they can always get into that becomes an offense in and of itself? Find 25, get her the ball, and just move. And that's exactly what they do here. This is the read and react layer that I think a lot of people are talking about, and it's not necessarily a play that's being ran. These aren't scripted plays. They have principles that they're playing off of when Alyssa gets touches in specific spots in ways to compromise the defense. So immediately, as I said that, you see, like I said, play breaks down. They don't create any advantage in the early pick and roll that they get to. 15 seconds left on the shot clock. How quickly can you get into a next action? And what's the tempo of that looking like in terms of compromising the defense to then create offense for yourself? Now, we're going to see Kit Loxa, again, space second side. There's two players here. You got Kit here, and you got Lexi Held here. And what Kit is going to do is rise from this corner, playing the leverage of the defense. She's going to set this flare screen off of the trigger that is a touch for Alyssa Thomas at that elbow area of the court. And watch the advantage that's ultimately going to be created from that. And you see Lexi Held is sprung wide open for the opportunity to get this catch. The defense is sagging off just enough for her to feel comfortable to get into a catch and shoot. And that's going to be another one of the 11 3-point assists that came from an Alyssa Thomas pass in this game. And this play in particular is something that they're going to be able to lean into heavily because it's simply just read and react. Playing off of principles, understanding a shared IQ in multiple respects, and again, the tempo and cadence at which is all happening consistently keeps the defense in compromise. Also, with the ways that they're going to be screening off ball and things like that off of Alyssa Thomas's touches, on the elbow in particular, that also opens up driving lanes and opportunities for her to use that leveraging of space also as kind of just a basically misdirection, just to hold the help defense, and then opens up driving lanes for her. So kind of keep those in mind as you're watching these plays develop as well. And this next one here, we see them get into what looks like stack pick and roll, one of the plays that we talked about earlier, where you have 3 players aligned kind of in vertical type of spacing from one another where the ball is, and they will all kind of set screens for each other and kind of play out of that and read and react. However, this is somewhat of a counterpunch. This action here, which looks like stack pick and roll, is going to ultimately turn into a misdirection. So we're going to see Satu Sabali relocating from this area to the high wing, and then we're going to be seeing Monica Koamakani relocating to kind of the low wing, kind of just barely above the break where the wing turns into the corner, just below the free throw line extended area of the court. And you're going to pay attention to the spacing that creates in terms of driving lanes ultimately for Alyssa Thomas, but also pay attention to who this action is going to be putting in compromise, and that is Courtney Vandersloot. A lot of times, like we've talked about multiple times before, Monica Koamakani has set the most screens on ball in an inverted fashion for Alyssa Thomas this season. Not a surprise, and the reasoning behind that is because typically who's guarding Koamakani, who's going to be usually the smaller player on the court, may not always be the worst defender per se, but it's going to be someone that can be taken advantage of when Alyssa Thomas gets below the free throw line, whether to put them in conflict to show help too soon, which is going to spring somebody else open for a 3, or just allow for Alyssa Thomas to go straight through them or straight over the top of them, get fouled, get up a basket, if not do both of those things. And you're going to see exactly what comes of this action here and why it's so impactful and effective. It's like we talked about, because Courtney Vandersloot has to show help, that naturally springs open Monica Koamakani. She's shooting above 50% from 3 this season, and she gets a catch and shoot 3-point opportunity at a crucial juncture for the Phoenix Mercury to take the lead in an instance where they would never relinquish it the rest of the way. And then this one taking place again, and this kind of not necessarily transition. This is more of a semi-break because the pace is a little bit more controlled, but it's going to be the bread and butter, which we spoke to in our last film session, and that's these Mercury guards flowing up to set screens in an inverted fashion for Alyssa Thomas when she has the ball in her hands. Now we're going to see Angel Reese duck under this screen. Most teams are ultimately going to settle on going under screens, but it's going to be about how well does this defender right here defend in space, because this is almost just misdirection. It's inverted pick and roll, but there's not going to be a true screen that's being set. Kid is going to essentially be respacing and relocating. This is almost like a shallow cut where she just cuts through, and now Alyssa Thomas is going to have this entire outer third area of the court to work with in one-on-one with this particular defender right here, who happens to be Angel Reese on this play. So as you see Kit essentially kind of go screen or shallow cut the inverted pick and roll, now you see the space that I spoke to being created, and now this is again where the greatness of Alyssa Thomas comes into play, because it's not just about her understanding that she can get past her defender, but it's also even more so about reading that next line of defense. As she gets to this point where she's turning the corner and she's stealing back leverage, with Angel anticipating her going towards the outside part of the paint, towards the baseline, and she elects to take that leverage and goes middle, she understands where the initial help defender is going to be before that defender actually makes the decision to commit to the ball. And also not just this layer right here, but also with these 2 players right here, and who's going to be sliding down to help the helper and take over for Camilla in the corner, and who that's ultimately going to free up, which is obviously right here going to be Monica Koamakani yet again. So we revert our attention back to Alyssa Thomas. We're looking at her all-time great processing with the live dribble and how she's out here playing chess and thinking 3 and 4 moves ahead of a defense. And you see exactly what happens. She looks off that corner pass as Courtney Vandersloot sinks to the corner to take over for Camila Cardoso. And her general drive touch sinks the entire defense. It flattens them out. And then she's able to stretch the defense after flattening them out with the pass out to the 3-point line. And here's a Koamakani again knocking down another clutch 3-point shot. Rinse and repeat, different spacing, but they're going to be getting into the exact same action again. It's that inverted pick and roll with Kit Loxa setting the screen this time. Again, not unlike last time, it's going to be kind of like a blow by where she's just misdirection, just kind of creating some confusion. And this time you see the advantage that it's ultimately going to create, because her cut, her shallow cut, her inverted screen essentially takes 2 because the coverage on ball isn't sharp. That's going to naturally engage all of the help defense. And now at this point, as she sees the advantage that's been created in reaction to everything that Kit Loxa did on this screen, She knows that she's going to have all of the options she wants. She's got Kat Westbell here in the corner as she can anticipate Camila Cardoso and ignoring her no corner help responsibilities because of the overreaction on the ball. But she's also going to see what's going on this second side. You got Sammy Wickham understanding that her matchup, Courtney Vandersloot, is sinking in to also try to take away the rim from Alyssa. And then you're going to also see Kia Nurse trying to sink in as well from that weak side block area of the court to try to take away a potential drive. Everybody's trying to take away this angle in this 4 versus 3 that's been created below the free throw line, all stemming from Kit Loxa on this shallow cut kind of blur screen, if you will. She knows she has her pick of the litter of options. She could just take it herself, one pass here easy, one pass to the opposite side easy as well in this 2 versus 1. Watch the decision that she makes, the timing at which she makes this decision, and the ultimate result that all just kind of encapsulate her all-time greatness. And that, my friends, is how you get to 41 assist points created. That's how you get to 15 assists. That's how you get to 11 3-point assists generated. And that's how you do so all with just 1 turnover. Being an all-time great is not only about understanding your skill set and abilities as an individual player, but how you can move defenders around and essentially playing real-life chess to open up advantages for others, keep your offense afloat, and also keep everybody involved in keeping the flow of your offense in a certain rhythm that consistently compromises the defense.